Hi, this is Kang, back with another tutorial. This is going to be a comprehensive guide for how to set up an avatar in VRChat for full body tracking. So, as you can see, when things are working right, uh, everything lines up, bottom of the foot there, my knees right there, my knees right there, everything works great. But that's not always the case. Uh, Often with anime scale avatars, you'll have all sorts of problems. So let me switch into one of those and I can show you what things might look like uh, in that situation. All right, so as you can see, uh, my tracker balls don't line up with my feet at all. They're way too high. And if I bind in, you can see when I touch the bottom of my foot, it's right there. That means that if I go down to touch the floor, I can't reach it. Some other problems, if I bend forward like this, look at this head bob. You might have experienced this in your avatars. A related problem to this head bob is if I lay down like this, my body comes up into my face and I can't see anything. So I'm going to show you how to fix all that stuff. And the first thing we need to do is be able to actually measure by how much I need to shorten these arms and legs. Uh, so the very first thing we need to do for that is to adjust the scale of the world so that my actual torso matches this torso. So if I touch myself on the shoulder, that's lining up right now, but down here is right there. So my real world torso is that big, but the avatar's torso is smaller. That means I need to make the avatar and the whole world actually scaled larger. And the way to do that is you go into your system menu here, and under this user real height setting right there, you just turn it up. So bigger numbers, bigger world. So I'm going to make it a lot bigger. So you'll probably have to dial this in yourself to find exactly what works for you. I'm going to go with that. All right, so I'm going to swap back in and out of the avatar. All right, let me swap back. All right, now immediately you can see there's another problem. My shoulders are up way too high, but there's a way to fix that. So you can use a program called OpenVR Advanced Settings, and I'll have a download link for that in the description. And once you install that, it'll look like this. So you open it up, and you can go into the play space setting here. And if you were to modify something here on this y-axis right there, that would cause your play space to shift up or down. But the one that I have a download link for will have this virtual move shortcut. So either the left or the right menu button will be check marked. I have it on the right menu button. And that means that if I hold down this top menu button right here and drag my controller, it'll actually move my entire play space. So I'll show you what that looks like. So you can't see my controller right now unless I grab something. So my controller is right here. And if I hold down that menu button and I move it, you can see that I move around through my play space. So I can use that to line up with the top of my shoulders. So I'll just line that up. You can see that that looks pretty good. You'll probably want some kind of object that you can grab to help with this process. So that's why I've got this. So there's the top of my shoulders. Actually, it's a little bit high. Okay. Now I'm going to check down here. And that's lining up too. So that means that it's scaled correctly, and this avatar's torso is the same size as my real world torso. So if I adjust the arm lengths and the leg lengths, that means that the torso is going to match, the arms are going to match, and the legs are going to match, and everything will be perfect. So in order to get the torso, or in order to get the arms and legs to match, I got to measure them. So that's what this thing's for. If I stand inside the avatar, and then I extend my arm out and make sure that this is positioned about where the Vive controller would be. and extend my arm out and use this as a marker. And then I look, and I can see also my tracker balls right there. And this will show me how long my arm should be after shortening it, and that will show me how long my leg should be. I shorten them down to the trackers. Okay, so I want to take a screenshot, and to do that, well, actually, I'll show you in the Steam menu. You hold down the Steam menu button here, and the trigger at the same time. So, holding the Steam menu button and the trigger, take a screenshot. I take a few of those. Okay, and so now I'll be able to use these screenshots in Blender to scale the avatar. I want to reiterate that you have to get this torso to match your real torso, and you do that by changing the world scale. Oh wow, changing the world scale in the user real height setting until the avatar size matches the avatar's torso size matches with your torso. That's really important. Oops, let me bind in. All right, so next we'll need to go into Blender and open up those screenshots and start scaling things. So off to Blender. Okay, so here we are in Blender, and before we get started, we've got to do a couple things to make sure the model doesn't get torn apart and holes open up when we start scaling and stretching things. So first of all, you want to join meshes if you haven't done that already. I already did that, so I'm going to do the next part, which is removing doubles. So to do that, select the body, and so I want to turn this on. Press Tab to enter edit mode, and press A to select all. Press 1 on the number pad to look from the front, and 5 to go into flat view. I'm doing this so that I can deselect the head. You probably want to do that because if you remove doubles from the mouth, you can actually get the mouth to get stuck closed. So I'm going to deselect the head. There's this limit selection to visible button. Click that until you can see through the model, and press B for selection box. Hold down Shift and select to deselect the head. Okay, now press the spacebar and type remove doubles and choose remove doubles. So it removed a bunch of vertices, so that was a good thing that I did that. All right, so next we're going to get into pose. Oh, actually, before I talk about that, you might want to apply the full body fix if you haven't already. So in order to do that, you'd go under this fix model thing. There's the settings wrench, and you can put the checkbox in apply full body tracking fix. So if you check that and then press fix model, I'm not going to press it because I already did that, but what it will do is change the bones so that it actually makes the leg, the upper leg, controlled by these little bones that point up, and then it reverses the hip. And doing it that way just makes things line up better in VRChat, so I'd recommend it if you're having any trouble, especially with the hip lining up or the hip twisting around in weird ways. Okay, so let's get started with scaling and configuring the avatar. So we're going to do that in pose mode, so hit the Start Pose Mode button. And the first thing I want to do is get the avatar into a T-pose. So I'm going to start by straightening the shoulders. I'm going to right-click on the shoulder here and press Alt-B to get a selection box that lets me hide everything that's outside the box. I'm going to press 3 to view from this side. I'm still in the 5 flat mode. I'm going to zoom in on the root of the bone. And now I'm going to rotate it. Okay, and line it up. And I can see that it's minus 15 degrees. I'm just going to type in minus 15. So it's exact, and I can remember the number, and there it is. One thing you'll notice is the root of the bone is here, and the tail of the bone is here slightly behind that. And that's actually important. So here, let me zoom out. So the way the arms are set up, you're going to want the corner between this bone and the next bone to be pointing backwards. And then especially the same thing for the arm and the elbow. So if I look down here, press 3 actually to view side on, kind of hard to see. You can see that, well, actually you can't see. Let me get the whole arm. That the corner between here and here points points backwards. Probably be better if I straighten the arm first, but you can kind of see that it's pointing back. So if that were a straight line there, this is pointing back. So that's important because the game judges the direction that the arm should be pointing from where the elbows are, and that the elbows are pointed backwards. So if, for example, you ended up with an arm like that, that's an exaggeration, but it would try to point that backwards, and in doing so, it would spin the whole arm around and you get a weird twisted up shoulder. The same thing goes for the knees, actually. So the knees need to be slightly pointed forward. If the knees were bent backwards, it would think that the legs are pointed the wrong way, twisted around, and you'd get weird twisting around the hips. So if that's happening to your avatar, just make sure that the elbows and all these little bends are pointed the right way. All right, so let's straighten the arms next. Same thing, Alt-B, press 3 to view from the side, grab, and line it up. If I need more accuracy, I can extend out, line it up. -15, I'll type that in so it's exact. That happened to be -15. Your numbers might be different, so just line it up. Okay, go over here. I'm going to drag to rotate the correct way here, so I have someplace to type this in. Type in 15. It's not -15 because it's mirrored on this side. Oh, did I not apply? I didn't apply the shoulder yet either, so that's why that's down. Let's do that. Okay, and there we go. Make sure you do both the same thing on both sides, and everything should be good. All right, so the arms are straightened out, and now I can actually start scaling the avatar. So before I took that screenshot, so something like this, and I left a marker here to show how long the arm should be, and I left my trackers there to show how long the leg should be. So, and I want to reiterate that it's important that this avatar was scaled so that my shoulders and my crotch were lined up with the avatars, so that my torso is the right size. And if the torso is the right size after I scaled it in the game, then I check where my arms and legs should be, then everything will end up the right way. Torso, arm length, leg length, everything will be good. All right, so the marker's right about there. So I want to, maybe I'll press 1 to view from the front. I want to kind of eyeball this and mark on here. I'm going to left click. It looks like some place around there. When I left click, it puts my cursor, my 3D cursor right there. So that'll let me get a reference for scaling. Okay, so before I scale, I want to protect the hands from getting affected by the scale. Otherwise, they get shortened down and kind of get stubby. So I'm going to select the wrist here and go into this, press this bone button, go down and disable inherit scale. I want to do that on both sides. And that prevents the hands from scaling along with the arm. So the hands will stay the same shape. Okay, so got the arm here. I'm going to press this button to scale. I'm going to change it to local so it scales along the axis of the arm. And press 1 to view from the front again. I've got my reference point, and I'm going to start scaling. So just slide it to scale, and I want the palm to line up like I was holding a Vive controller right at that spot. That looks pretty good. I'll do it to 0.8. So I'm just going to drag across these to select all three, type in 0.8. You really only have to do the y-axis, but just to be safe, I'm going to do it on all, or the constrained axis. Okay. And we'll do the same thing to the other side. So drag 0.8. All right, so now the arms are scaled, and I can do the legs. So again, with my screenshot here, I can see that the trackers, which should be above my feet, but just slightly above my feet, like mounted on top, are right there. So I'm going to use that as my reference point, and looks like it's right about there. Something like that. Okay, so now I'm going to press 3 to view from this side. Oh, before I do that, I want to disable that inherit scale. So click on the bone thing. Disable that for the feet, because otherwise when I scale the legs, the feet might get squished flat. Okay, so normally, if you didn't apply the full body fix in here, if you hadn't applied that yet, you could just scale the leg, and that would work. But I applied the full body fix on this, so now this bone is controlling the leg. So if I want to scale anything, I have to actually scale this bone that's pointing up. All right, so I'm going to press 3 to view from the side, grab that bone on the top, and start scale. Well, let's do both at the same time. I'm going to shift and right click to do both at the same time. Press 3 to view from this side and grab this bone and start scaling. And someplace around there, maybe? I'll do it there. Let's call it 2/3 0.66. So you'll have to kind of do some trial and error. If you do all this and you get in game and things are slightly off, just do the same thing again, take more screenshots, or just make a slight adjustment based on how you feel it's off. But I'm going to type it in so it's exactly 0.66 just so I know what it was. And there we go. The arms and legs are now scaled properly. Okay, so I want to save this into the avatar, so I'm going to do the apply as rest pose button here, and that will apply it in. If I did stop pose mode right now, everything would just go back to the way it was, so I'd lose all that. So apply as rest pose. Okay, so it's now saved into the avatar, but you can see that my model is just kind of floating up in space above the origin. So I have to fix the origin point next. So to do that, I want to select the body, go into edit mode, press tab to go into edit mode. I'm going to go back into flat view and press numpad 5 for flat, numpad 3 for viewing from the side, and I want to look for a low point. That looks like a low point, and I'm going to right click to select that. And now I'm going to press space and type cursor and do snap cursor to selected. So now my 3D cursor is right there, but I don't care about the left and right or front and back. I just want the up and down dimensions. So I'm going to take this X and Y, I'm going to drag across and select both of these and type in 0. This is under the 3D cursor. And now the only modification to the cursor is that it's up from the origin. And now I want to apply this to the body, so I'm going to get back out of edit mode. I'm going to press tab to go back into object mode with just the body selected, only the body. And I'm going to press space and type origin. Set origin, so I'm going to click here, and then origin to 3D cursor. Okay, so now the body's origin is set to the 3D cursor, but because it was up, now the whole body is transformed up from the origin of the space in Blender. So I would need to set this to 0 to get the body to go back down, but I'm going to need this number. So first I want to select it, Control C to copy and paste it. So I've copied that, and now I can zero it out. Okay, and now you can see why I need that number. The armature is left behind. So I'm going to go and select the armature, press tab to go into edit mode, press A until I've selected all, then press G to transform, press Z to lock along the Z axis so it's only going up and down, and move it a little bit. Now I have a place to type. So on the Z axis here, I want to type in a minus subtraction thing to go negative on that number, and then I just pasted it in, and now that will shift it back down exactly where it should be. Okay, so now we have fixed the origin, and next I want to fix that weird behavior where you get the head bob, or when you lay down and your body floats up into your view. So let's work on that. So actually we'll want to be in edit mode on the armature for that, and we're going to have to modify some bones. So conceptually, what you're trying to do is get the head bone to control both what the head and neck used to control. So first I want to kind of minimize the size of the neck here. So I'm going to do that by shortening the neck and lengthening the head down inside. The easiest way to do that is just to use a box selection on everything in this spot here at the top of the neck. So I've selected the tail of the neck and the root of the head bone, and now I can just drag that down. It makes the neck shorter and the head longer. And I'll just make it pretty small. I don't recommend going all the way to 0. That might cause some buggy behavior, and make sure you don't turn it the other way and go beyond. That would probably not be good, but we'll make it really small. Okay, but the bone weights haven't changed. So the bone position has changed, but the bone weights didn't change, so that could cause trouble. So I'm going to select pose mode on the armature now. So I'm in pose mode, and now I'm going to right-click on the body to select the body, and then go into weight painting mode so I can see what the weights are looking like. So the head is like that, and this neck still has all its weights. It's controlling all that. But I want to take these weights from the neck and put them into the head. So in order to do that, I want to click this little wrench tool over here. For the modifiers, add a modifier and add a vertex weight mix modifier. Okay, so I want to add into the head. So for this vertex group A, I'm going to click and type head, or whatever your head bone is named, but it should just be head. Select that, and I want to copy from the neck, so I'm going to click in group B and type neck. Select that. The mix mode should be add, so I'm adding the neck weights in, and you can see it did a little bit of a change. It intensified the weights here, but it hasn't expanded them at all, and that's because this mix set needs to be set to all. So there we go. So now this is the head bone, but it has the weights from the neck mixed in with it. So now the head is controlling everything that the head and neck controlled before. So I got to make sure to apply this modifier. So we'll click apply. Okay, but the neck still has its weights as before, and we need to remove those. The easiest way to do that is click on this triangle kind of data details thing, and go down to vertex groups, find the neck vertex group, and click this little minus sign. And there we go. There are no weights on the neck anymore. So to check to make sure that looks all right, let's go back into pose mode again. So start pose mode, click on the head bone here, and just kind of rotate it around. Make sure that it doesn't look too crazy. Should look like the head and neck are moving pretty normally. So if this isn't enough, so you can see, for example, if I tuck it down, this is going to be my view along the body. So that probably should be good enough. But if it isn't good enough, you can actually lower the head and neck down closer to the shoulders even more to increase the effect of keeping the body under the head when you're laying down. So I can show you how to do that, but I wouldn't recommend it necessarily unless you're having trouble, because you could mess stuff up. But this is how you do that. So I'm going to stop pose mode. Oh, and by the way, before you save all these modifications to the bone and the neck, you're going to want to make sure you keep a backup of the way it used to be, because once the new IK, the new inverse kinematics system comes out for VRChat, you probably will want it the old way. Now, these are some modifications to work around the way the system works right now, but they're trying to fix the system, so you probably want to revert it later, so just keep a backup. Okay, so I want to move all this stuff down a little bit, the head and neck juncture point. So with the armature selected, I'm going to go into edit mode again, press A until everything is deselected. And now I'm going to select the entire neck bone and the bottom of the head bone with the B for a box selection tool. And now I'm going to move that whole thing down like this. So this is just kind of your own judgment for where you think everything should be rotating around. If you go too low, then you'll kind of get a weird caved-in hole around between the shoulders when you look down. So you don't want to go too low, but the lower you go, the more the body will stay tucked under the head when you're laying down and looking down across your body. So I'll do something like that, maybe. Used to be there. And moved it down that much. So that might be too much, I don't know. But this is how you do this modification in any case. All right, so I did that, but we want to make sure that it looks normal when it moves. So I'll start up pose mode again, grab the head, and move the head. And I mean, it looks okay. And this is probably good enough, but you can see there's a little bit of a weird tucking in around the neck here, right there, this weird bendiness and this weird stretchiness that's going on here. And that's because the bone is now lower down than the bone weights were. So there are a couple ways to fix that. You'll have to go into weight painting to fix that, but probably the easiest way would be to just blur the bone weights to kind of extend them down a little more. So I'll show you how to do that too. So we want to be in pose mode on the armature, click on the body, go back into weight painting mode, select the head weights because this is controlling everything now, and you probably want to mirror X and Y, or not Y, you want to mirror X, so go into the options here and do mirror X, and go back to tools and select blur, and now we just kind of start to blur these weights to extend it down a little bit more because the bone's down lower now. Now if you overdo this, as the head moves around, then if you look down, this will kind of cave in and you'll get a weird hole here. So this is kind of a, a artistic choice here, so it's easy to mess up. So I wouldn't really recommend doing this whole process unless you're having trouble with the body's position when you are looking down. All right, so that kind of extended the weights down a little bit more. Looks good. So let's go back into pose mode, see how it looks. Okay, that looks a little bit better. It's not stretching and staying still here. It's moving with the head. That looks all right. And looks okay in the front. It looks all right. And if you wanted to spend a long time improving it to make it really good, you could do that. But now you can kind of see when I bend my head forward where my eyes are going to be. They're definitely out over the body, so you're going to be looking down and your body's going to stay under you. So that's what this fix does. All right, so I'm going to stop pose mode. And that should be it, actually. I've got everything applied. So from here, you're going to want to export your model, as you usually do, and get it over into Unity. So let's do that now. Okay, so here we are in Unity, and I'm ready to import my save. I've got that right here. And if I wanted to, I could just drag this in and import it. But for example, let's say you have a lot of stuff already set up on your avatar, and you don't want to start over. So here's actually the assets folder here. I have it named avatar 1. So what I could do is overwrite it, and I would keep everything intact, and I would just update to the new modifications. So I'm assuming you already know how to just import an avatar, so this tutorial doesn't cover all that. But if you were to do that, then that process is just the same. But I want to go over a precaution to take when you're overwriting. So I'm going to name this to be the same thing. And in here, I'm going to delete this one and the meta file. And actually, I'll copy paste. Control C, Control V, copy paste. All right, so that's in there. And as soon as I click back on Unity, it's going to try and re-import it. So here it goes. And it's re-imported it. But the precaution that you need to take is it actually hasn't updated the humanoid rig. And if you upload it as it is right now, then it's still going to go back to the old bone scaling. So you need to update the humanoid rig. To do that, select your avatar, take your rig, and set it to none, and apply that. So we're just kind of fleshing out the old rig configuration. Okay, now set it back to humanoid, and apply again. Okay, you can go in and configure. We'll just save these. Go in and configure. You'll get this error here on the spine. It'll say that the spine transform has a bone length of 0. That's because of the CATS plugin Fullbody fix, but you can safely ignore that. You don't have to worry about that. So yeah, otherwise, the same checks. You probably want to go in and delete the jaw if you're not using that. I actually have an eye movement animation, so I delete the eyes, but you probably don't want to do that, so but I just do that. Oh, and we've actually lost the neck, so let's go in and make sure the neck is filled in. So if that happens to you, just double check all the bones, make sure they're okay. So fill in the neck there. That neck bone is not weighted to anything, so that might be why it got removed, but you still need the bone there for the armature to be working properly. So we've got everything, it looks good. And apply. And we could be done. One thing I want to mention, you can actually do the bone scaling right here in Unity. So if I, for example, if I select the left leg and control select the right leg, I go here to scaling and I start scaling stuff. I can just scale right here, and if I apply that, then it's gonna carry through. The problem with that, and the reason I don't do that, is because if I go back and make modifications in Blender and then want to re-import, then I'm gonna have to redo everything. Any adjustment I do here is going to re-import from the FBX file. Also, it's a little harder to try and control what gets scaled and what doesn't. You see the feet got squished there, so you just have more control when you're doing stuff in Blender. So this might be a really quick fix if you don't need to have a permanent solution, but it could also mess stuff up. So I'd recommend doing it the Blender way, but just for your information, it's possible to do it like this. Okay, so let's actually revert that to what I just applied. Everything's good. Okay, so click done. I clicked revert there because I was scaling the bones, but normally you wouldn't click revert there. Okay, so now I've updated the humanoid rig, but because I scaled the head bone, if you've got anything on the head, so for example, I've got my visor here and this little gemstone that's on this avatar's head. It's on the head bone so that I can control it with emotes and take them off and do things with it. But because the head bone got moved down, this stuff all got moved down too. So if you have anything like that, it's just on the head bone, then you're gonna have to fix that up. So, I would go in and fix that. Of course, you would fine-tune that if that was your avatar. But you'll have to fix that. So stuff will get off if it is parented to the head because of that modification we made. All right, another thing you don't want to forget is everything got shortened when we shortened the legs. So the VRChat viewpoint, the view ball, is still way up here, and you have to change that. So don't forget to do that. So we can start moving that down. That's controlled here, the avatar descriptor. I'll just type in some numbers. 1.3. Where are we? Probably too low. 1.4. Oh, it's too high. No, it wasn't too low. It was in the hair. 1.2. I think that would put it right here on this line. Yeah, there it is. 1.15. So I recommend lining it up with your eyes. I always do it that way. So just kind of hone in on that. 1.57. 1.15. Let's see. All right, that's pretty good. And I like to actually just put it right there inside the eyes. These numbers will definitely be different from your avatar, so don't copy these numbers. You've got to type it in and figure it out. You might have to change the Z value. That's the front and back. You know, I think I'll actually tuck it in just a little bit more in behind inside the eyes. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. So don't forget to set the view ball. All right, and yeah, that should be it for setting stuff up in Unity. You're ready to go to upload. Before I do that, this might be useful to some people. I like to set a profile picture for my avatar, so I do that by having this plane object hidden here, and if I enable it, this is going to be right behind where the VRChat camera is, the default position, in exactly the right scale, so that it would fill it up as a profile picture. So if you want to make one of those, you can use these values right here. You would make a 3D object, or right-click to make a 3D object and make a plane. And then under the plane, you would type in all these values. So you just pause right here, type these in. I'm going to do it faster by copying and pasting the values. So I'm going to hide this other one. So I've got it right there. And then you'll need to make a new material. And so create a material. And right, select the shader as unlit. Texture. Select your texture. Whatever you had it set as, and then you'll be good to go. So go back, or you have your new plane that you made, and drag that material onto the plane. And then last thing you want to do is hide that. And then when you upload the avatar, you would enable that. So if I were gonna upload the avatar, I'd open the VRChat SDK, show the build control. Oh, looks like when I re-imported, it lost the body mesh for the Visemes, so you want to make sure you fix that. See, this error message came up. So if that happens to you, go back here, and you can see that it doesn't see the face mesh for the Visemes. So to fix that, you're going to want to take the body mesh here and drag it down here where it says face mesh, drag it on. All right, and make sure these are still set. They're all good. And there you go. So now we're ready to upload. So when you start the upload, just wait while it does its thing. Okay, it's ready there. So in the hierarchy, if we enable this plane now, then we're going to have our profile picture here. all set to go. So okay, so it's ready to go, and now there are a couple things you have to think about when you're setting up your OpenVR advanced settings and your world scale when you bind into the avatar in VRChat. So let's get in game and go over that stuff. All right, so here we are back in game, and I'm going to load back a scaled avatar again. And all right, here it is. But as you can see, things don't line up just right. But there's a way to solve that. So first thing, let me bind in here. If I extend my arms all the way, I can see that they're actually still bent. My real arms are extended, but the avatar's arms are still bent. So that means that the game scale is off right now, and I need to make the world smaller, so this avatar is smaller, so that I can fit the arms. So again, to change the world scale, you go back to the system menu, the user real height. So this is actually my real height here, but although it says real height, that's not what you're going to want to use. Just think of it as world scale. So because I need to make the avatar smaller because the arms are too long, I will turn this down. Okay, try again. They're still bending. Turn it down more. Try again. And that looks really good. So when my arms are fully extended, everything is straight. All right, so now I'm at the proper scale, but my feet are floating off the ground. That T-pose is all messed up. If I swap again, that's the old one. You can see now at this scale that my shoulders are way too low. Oh, look at that. Yeah, my shoulders are way too low. And the feet are way too low too, so everything is down too low. So, as we learned before, you can use the play space mover. So I'm going to hold this menu button here, and you can see my vertical value is 0 right there. I can hold this menu button here and drag the play space. As I do that, so if I do that a little bit, you can see that it's updated these numbers. I kind of moved to the side a little bit, but that's the important one right there. So line up the shoulders again, like before. And then look down and check your feet. And you're going to want your tracker balls not to be inside the feet, but slightly above, assuming that they're mounted slightly above your real feet. So that looks pretty good. All right, so we can see that the y-axis up down here is at 0.15. Okay, so I'm actually going to just type that in. So it's going to be exactly. Okay. And now I can bind into this T-pose here. And if all goes well, everything should fit. And it does. All right. But there's one more thing. Maybe you want to play around with this dragging thing. You want to fly off into space, right? Yay, that's great. Okay. But if I reset it, now I'm kind of floating here because I had to move this to 0.15, but now it's back to 0 again. So there's actually a little trick you can do. So it was positive 0.15. I'm going to go the other direction here. So I'm going to just do the negative, so I have a negative sign. Just hit the minus there, and then type in 0.15 here. All right, so now I'm even further in the wrong direction, but if I set one of my controllers on my floor here, and then I go back here to the play space fix, and I do a floor fix with it offset. So I have the offset in here. I'm going to fix the floor. There we go. Now, that controller is on the floor, but at this point, if I reset it back to 0, I'm going to go even more in that direction because it's undoing that. And let me pick up the controller. There we go. Now this is 0. That's 0. But my feet are right on the floor. And if I drag myself away, and I reset it, I'm right back at the floor again. So as you can see, everything's working. That weird head bob doesn't happen anymore. Lay on the ground. Everything's great. So hopefully this will be of help to somebody. Well, thanks for watching. I'd love to know if this worked for you, so you could leave a comment or get a hold of me on Discord. I'll leave that information in the description. Also, you could contact me if you have a question. Feel free to share this to anyone else if it seems like it might be useful to them. Yeah, hope this is a help to somebody. Until next time, bye for now.